It's the WPF semifinals from San Marcos, Texas, and one game to determine which team has a right to play for it all. The semis pits two teams who ended the regular season in different directions, the Coastal Bend Tidal Wave and the surging Texas Monarchs, coming to you on the official WPF YouTube channel. Brant Freeman alongside Bill Colhane, and the Monarchs, yes, are the hotter team right now, Bill, but the Tidal Wave won the regular season series. The stage is set now for what should be an exciting game tonight.
It should be, and we can throw away all of the records because all of us, we're getting ready to witness three of the most exciting words in sports: survive and advance.
And two exciting words for the Monarchs, Aspen and Wesley. That is the starting pitcher tonight for the Monarchs, who ended the regular season on a 5-game winning streak, winning 7 of their last 8 to finish out the season 15-15. Wesley, with pitching at home this season, 3-3, 2.67 ERA, 36 2/3 innings for Wesley here in San Marcos, 17 strikeouts, 8 walks in that workload. The batting order tonight for Coastal Bend: Malaysia Ochoa bats leadoff as she's done for majority of the year. Tate Whitley bats second. Tatum Anzaldo bats third. A really good 1-2-3 top of the order for Coastal Bend. Hitters 4 through 6, middle part of the order: Trinity Cannon, Kelly Lynch, and Julia Jimenez. And then the bottom third: Ryder Wiggins, Alessia Garcia, and Grace Chellerman, for a team that won the season series 7-4.
And Brant, I hearken back to a couple weekends ago. You and I were fortunate to do Monarchs v. Coastal Bend, and you and I talked about it, that if these two met in the playoffs, it would be must-see TV. I don't know about you, partner, but I'm excited.
Yes, I am as well. These two did meet a couple of weeks ago, a series won by the Monarchs 3-1, but in the two series prior, Coastal Bend won 6 of 7. So here we go: Ochoa versus Wesley, Tidal Wave versus Monarchs. Winner moves on to the championship series starting Wednesday against the Texas Smoke. We have a bye to the finals, and the first pitch fouled away for strike one.
One thing we know about Aspen Wesley, a couple things. She's veteran. She's a veteran. She's experienced, but she's also a strike thrower. And that'll be pivotal tonight to not give up those walks, not allow free bases to the opposition.
Wesley's 0-1 on the ground is second. Sand, the flip to Piper. And a ground out starts this playoff game between the Tidal Wave and the Monarchs. And what a way for Wesley here in the first.
He had strikes, right? Let her defense work behind her. She has a very good defense. I mean, you look at Sand, who just made that play. She was a shortstop at Rutgers, one of the greatest ever there in Piscataway, and she shows her ability to move to the ball and make a play.
Now to the plate, Tate Whitley. And takes strike one. It is a 4-man crew, by the way, today for the WPF postseason, that being the umpire crew. Daniel Maldonado is calling strikes behind the plate, and you have umpires at all 3 bases: Scott Mayer, Mario Calabrese, and Lyndon Baptiste rounding out the crew.
It's the playoffs, big.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, getting back to that infield defense behind Wesley, you really have 3 shortstops and Vanderford at third, and we know Vanderford, she can play anywhere. Piper she's at first right now, but was a shortstop at Ohio State. Flaherty, she's at the 6th spot tonight, and I just said, Sand, you look at the Rutgers softball record books, and one of the greatest ever.
I feel like this is some foreshadowing on your part that this game might come down to infield play.
It could come down to big plays, right? Being able to prevent that additional run. Being able to make the right play at a pivotal time.
Count even here to Whitley, 2-2. Tatum Anzaldo awaits on deck. Whitley with a chopper. Flaherty the pick, the throw. Both in time. Boy, on the topic of infield play, how about Devin Flaherty, a shortstop for the Monarchs?
Look at it again. Gets a very tough hop on that last hop as she's charging to her left. And an accurate throw, a good stretch at first base by Piper. Right on cue.
Base is empty, 2 outs, and it brings up Tatum Anzaldo, who has been a bit of a Monarchs killer this season. On the ground, speaking of being right on cue, Anzaldo with a cue shot to center, a 2-out single.
Yeah, great piece of hitting there, going right back up the middle by Anzaldo. She's been one of the best in the WPF this summer. But we also know this, the scouting report that the Monarchs put together, one of the plans was to have Anzaldo come up with the bases empty.
Mission accomplished there as Cannon comes up now and takes a strike on the inside corner from Aspen to Wesley. Tough finish to the regular season for Coastal Bend. Got swept in a 3-game series by the Smoke this past weekend and run ruled in all 3 games.
Yeah, the Smoke had that offense on display this past weekend. But as you and I have chronicled, and Haley as well, as the summer's gone along, that's been the fate of all of the teams in the WPF. It has been absolutely breathtaking what the Smoke have been able to do.
1 ball and 2 strikes after a sweep of the Monarchs at Robstown a couple of weeks ago, or more than that, a few weeks ago. The Tidal Wave were 8-10 after that sweep, but lost 9 of their final 12. But as Bill said, all those records mean nothing right now.
Yeah, when we woke up this morning and I realized that everybody reset.
There's a drive to left, and that is belted and gone. Trinity Cannon with a 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run homer.
And absolutely demolished this ball. Wesley, think about the way the inning started. Back-to-back ground balls, nobody on. You feel like you're coasting along. Then Anzaldo does what she does, and looked like Cannon was waiting for the changeup. She saw it, she got it, she blasted it.
A 2-run jack there for Cannon. Hit a 3-run homer against the Monarchs, and these two last met a couple of weeks back. And this bomb comes with 2 down. And an early 2-0 lead against Wesley. Lynch looks at ball 1 inside.
This is where Wesley will lean on her experience. Pitching in big games, she understands you've got to put it behind you. You've got to move on to the next pitch.
1-0, grounded foul. Trinity Cannon, former Texas A&M Aggie, hit 18 home runs this past season for Texas A&M. You talk about a player that also lives up to the moment, plays up to the moment. If you recall, the Supers against Texas hit 3 homers in that 3-game series, 2 in 1 game.
Yeah, Cannon had some cannons. And that shot she just hit here, I'll tell you what, we've seen some Herculean home runs. That thing was a moonshot.
And now the count to Lynch, the same as it was to Cannon before her homer, 1-2. With the importance in this postseason, 2 outs, 2 strikes. Whoever wins those situations are going to win games. That's low, 2-2.
Nice take there. Didn't miss by a whole lot.
Fills the count, 3-2. So again, the postseason format. Seeds 2 and 3 qualifying for the semifinals. In the case, the ones you're watching here, the Monarchs and the Tidal Wave. The top seed, Smo, getting a bye right to the championship series. Up the middle at a base hit. 3 straight 2-out hits here for the Tidal Wave. And Lynch is on to extend the inning. And that series will start Wednesday. This is a single elimination game here. 1 game, winner moves on, loser goes home. And the winner will face the Smoke in a best 2 of 3 series starting on Wednesday.
And starting with tonight, again, everything magnified, right? Every at-bat is critical, every play, every pitch. You know, during the season, you can always kind of go along and say, well, there's always tomorrow. Tonight's game, for somebody, there's not going to be a tomorrow. And what a nice piece of hitting by Lynch, by the way, just like Anzaldo. Goes right back up the middle, uses the biggest part of the field.
0-1 to Julia Jimenez. Coming off a big series against the Smoke, takes a strike here. And I referenced that throw to the side for the Monarchs all year long. When facing Coastal Bend has been Tatum Anzaldo. It was her single with 2 outs that kept this inning going.
Yeah, and that's what, the coaching staff, the players on Coastal Bend are expecting their big players, big-time players to step up in a big-time moment, and tonight qualifies as that. As I arrived at the stadium, Brant, you and I come in different directions, but I came past the first base side, meaning past the first base dugout occupied by Coastal Bend, and you and I have covered many of these games this summer, and it just had a different feel as I watched the Tidal Wave warm up.
And out with 2 strikes, Kelly Torres comes out and talks to Aspen Wesley. In the meantime, Blake Miller's brought in a pinch runner to first base. Tate Whitley is back in to run in place of Kelly Lynch.
Saw Jimenez go to the rosin bag, and guess what? It's another warm evening in Central Texas.
95 degrees at first pitch. All the playoff games at night, though, here in Texas. Tonight and the 3 possible games later in the week. In the dirt, smothered by Torres, but Whitley's at second base.
Good read by Whitley. As a base runner, you've got to anticipate that ball down in the dirt, and exactly what Whitley does, and took off instantaneously and was able to beat the throw.
And now runner in scoring position here for Jimenez, 1-2, and Jimenez looks to the ball low again. Spoke about her big series over the weekend against the Smoke and that pitching staff the Smoke have. Homered 3 times and drove in 6 of the team's 10 runs that series.
Yeah, prolific numbers against, obviously, the best staff in all the WPF.
2-2. That was a 3-2 pitch, I beg your pardon. A full count, and Jimenez takes her base on the walk. 4 straight against Wesley, reaching with 2 outs.
Yeah, good job by the Tidal Wave, and I think we're going to get a timeout here. And, of course, softball pitching a little bit different than the way baseball pitching sets up, but this is an elimination game, and so both of the coaches aren't going to hesitate to use their pitching staffs tonight. There is no tomorrow. You don't want to go to bed tonight. You don't want to lay in bed and sit there and ask yourself, what if?
Rylan Wiggins, 2 on, 2 out. High fly, left field, and that is a foul ball, and just foul. While Wiggins did not miss that by much. Almost hooked inside the pole.
Yeah, that's one you don't measure it with a yardstick or a ruler. Look at that, almost grazes.
Bill, I think it sailed over the top of it. I think that's a home run.
You and I, because we're up here behind home plate, we're not looking directly down the left field line, so we don't have the best angle, but again, didn't miss by much. I think that's fair to say, and sometimes it's a game of inches.
Now, the replay angle that we had, you're right, perhaps where we are positioned couldn't quite see it, but you look at it again, to me, look at the top of the pole.
Yeah.
It's already past the pole. When it gets behind it at that angle, well, you would just love replaying this league moving forward, wouldn't you? There be so many plays that may have been overturned if there were instant replay available here, and that might have been one of them.
Yeah, ifs and buts were candy and nuts. The thing is, Wiggins has to lock back in. Fouls that one off. Now, Lyndon Batiste, you just got done saying there's a 4-umpire crew. Lyndon Batiste, he's the umpire at third base, so he has a look at it. Home plate umpire Daniel Maldonado, he's got a look at it. And there wasn't, and this doesn't qualify as being some kind of rebuttal, but there wasn't a lot of pushback by the Tidal Wave.
That is true. Wiggins strikes out to end the inning. And so the Tidal Wave will have to settle for the 1 homer and the 2 runs in the first. A big 2-out rally for Coastal Bend, capped off by the Trinity Cannon blast to left field. A 2-out, 2-strike, 2-run homer. It's puts the Tidal Wave on top 2-0 as we head to the bottom of the first. Kelly Lynch in the circle in this playoff game for Coastal Bend. The Tidal Wave on top 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the first inning. Lynch has not pitched a lot in this ballpark this season. 10 2/3 innings, but it's been a rough going for her when she does. 14 earned runs surrendered over those 10 2/3. That equates to an ERA of 9.19, a record 0-3. 10 strikeouts, 5 walks, give it up. The issue has been the long ball. In those 10 2/3, she has surrendered 5 home runs.
I think maybe for Coach Miller and Coastal Bend, one of the thoughts is whoever's in the circle tonight for Coastal Bend probably won't go the entire game, so he's going to try to mix up his pitchers. Lynch, somebody that the Monarchs haven't seen a lot of this season.
Meanwhile, Kylie Sand digs in, leadoff batter here for the Monarchs. And takes the ball outside. It is Sand, Devin Flaherty, Sarah Vanderford for the Monarchs. Top third of the order, middle third, Sona Halajan, Kelly Torres, and Lily Piper. You see Vanderford there, one of the great offensive players in the WPF this season. That's a miss high, 2-0. Bottom third of the order, Susie Brookshire, Emily Hotz, and Briley St. Clair. You've got speed and power up and down this lineup for the Monarchs.
Yeah, the approach against the Monarchs is you have to keep Sand and Flaherty from getting on base because the middle of the Monarchs batting order can do significant damage.
Monarchs 15-15, the record to end the regular season. Ending things at a 5-game winning streak with a sweep of Hub City in Lubbock this past week. And they have won 7 of 8 to close out the regular season.
And the only team to knock off the smoke this season. And almost did it twice opening weekend.
That's true. They were 1 out away from splitting that 4-game series, and the smoke have not lost since then.
Isn't that crazy to say as you say those words?
Their regular season record, 28-1, ending the regular season on a 25-game winning streak. Unbelievable.
And I'm going to confess, I haven't gone back and looked at every final of those 25 wins, but a lot of them weren't close.
A lot of run rules along the way.
Not many nail biters.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, their run differential during the winning streak has got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, 150. Sand was ahead 3-0, and then on a 3-2 pitch, grounds out to Wiggins for the first out of the inning.
Good job of battling back there by Lynch to get back into the count. A 2-0 lead in the bottom of the first. You certainly don't want to give up free passes, especially with the likes of Vanderford and Halajan and Piper looming on the horizon.
Monarchs themselves got really offensive in that Hub City series as Flaherty takes ball 1. They played a doubleheader to close out the regular season Friday against the Adelitas. 19 runs in game 1, 13 in game 2. One ball, 1 strike to Flaherty. Herself homered over the weekend against Hub City.
Yeah, big smile on her face as she rounded the bases, and there were a lot of smiles offensively for the Monarchs. But you think about what's been said in baseball and softball forever. You know, momentum is as good as your starting pitcher the next day, and it's Lynch's job to try to quiet this lineup down.
2 balls and a strike. Vanderford, the rookie, waiting on deck. I say the rookie, a lot of WPF rookies on this Monarchs roster, including Flaherty.
I think she thought that one might have been a bit off the outside corner.
Devin Flaherty in the Tidal Wave series a couple of weeks back, 2 for 12 and drove in a pair. 2-2. Fly ball, left field. The park is going to hold this. The catch is made by Whitley. And Lynch has retired the first 2 here in the inning.
Yeah, nice job by Lynch pounding the strike zone. But as we saw in the top of the first inning, just because there's 2 down and nobody on doesn't mean you're out of it yet. Saw Coastal Bend put together a couple of runs, 3 hits. Also a walk thrown in there in the top of the first.
How about the way that Vanderford has hit here at home this season? In WPF home games, Vanderford hitting .368, OPS over 1,200 with 7 homers and 26 batted in.
It's been incredible to witness. Her former head coach at Texas State, Ricky Woodard, one of the folks in attendance here, saw her walk in earlier. How proud must she be?
Oh, man. Both she and Jessica Mullins on the pitching staff with the smoke. Fouled back by Vanderford, 1-2. Speaking of the smoke, I've noticed a few of their players coming in and out of the ballpark as well.
Doing a little bit of scouting, huh? Some advanced scouting. Getting ready for the games Wednesday, Thursday, Friday if needed.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Vanderford. Monarchs trying to respond after the 2-out rally from the Tidal Wave at the top of the inning, but no rally coming here as Lynch strikes out Vanderford looking to end the inning. What a start for Coastal Bend. 2 runs in the top of the first and a 1-2-3 bottom for Kelly Lynch. We've played 1. It's 2-zip. Tidal Wave over the Monarchs. Couldn't have scripted much better of a start for Blake Miller's team than what he got in the first inning. A 2-out rally in the top of the first, highlighted by the 2-run homer hit by Trinity Cannon. And then at the bottom of the first inning, Kelly Lynch goes through the top of the order, 1-2-3 with a strikeout of the red-hot Sarah Vanderford.
Yeah, it all started, you may recall, with Lynch getting behind Sand, the leadoff batter, and was able to work back in that count, induce a ground ball, and pretty much clear sailing through the bottom of the first inning. Tremendous start. I don't know that Coastal Bend could have scripted it much better.
Alyssa Garcia, leadoff batter here for Coastal Bend in the second inning. Hitting in the 8th spot of the order for the Tidal Wave. Should be followed by Chelaman and Ochoa here in the seconds. There's a drive, right field, deep, and at the wall. Goes off the glove of Brookshire. And Garcia winds up at second with a leadoff double. So close to getting out of here. Brookshire may have saved it by making contact with the glove. We'll take a look at the replay.
Yeah, look at it. Look as the pitch is up, where basically all Garcia has to do is drop the bat head.
Yeah, off the glove of Brookshire. Not sure that she quite saved a home run or not. I think the ball would have landed before going over, but couldn't quite squeeze it either. And those are the types of breaks that you need in a game like this.
No doubt. And anytime you get leather on ball as a competitor, you feel like you coulda, shoulda made the play.
Bunt from Chellerman, Vanderford to third. Nobody covering second, though, and everybody is safe. So with Vanderford cheating in, it really shifted the entire infield to the left, and as a result, nobody at second to make the play.
Yeah, because you had Sand, the second baseman, in the rotation. She's going over to cover first because the first baseman, Piper, is crashing. Now you see the Monarchs meeting there in the center circle. Because why? Because we expect there's going to be a bunt here on this play coming up. It's the little things. You and I talked about it in the lead up to first pitch. You've got to get it right, and looks like Flaherty is kind of leading the conversation, the shortstop kind of known as the quarterback of the defense.
Mm-hmm. Scored as a fielder's choice, by the way, not a sacrifice or a hit. Either way, 2 on, nobody out. Top of the order coming up. And here is Malaysia Ochoa, where she had a monster series against this Monarch team a couple of weeks back. 7 for 13.
And she can handle the bat very, very well. It didn't look like she was squaring around on pitch 1. That doesn't mean the bunt isn't on here. It could be a situation where Coastal Bend, Coach Miller doesn't want to take the bat out of the hands of Ochoa.
A player, I'm sure, accustomed to this type of situation here, being asked to move her runners over, leadoff hitter all of this season for not only Coastal Bend but for Iowa State as well. Leadoff hitter for the Cyclones the entire 2024 season.
Yeah, of course, small ball, such a big part of the game of softball. We've kind of talked about how there have been so many home runs this summer, but we've seen teams do a good job of manufacturing runs at times as well. As a matter of fact, the last game that you and I did here, it was the Monarchs with an 8-0 run rule win over Coastal Bend. 8 runs, no home runs.
2-1. There's the bunt. And Wesley does not have a play either. And the bases are loaded. You could have not walked into the infield dirt and placed the ball better than what Malaysia Ochoa just did there.
And I almost wonder, you see the corner infielders kind of back on their heels there. I wonder if Ochoa kind of lulled the infield to sleep there by not squaring around earlier in the count. And you said it, that was just a great job of getting that bat head out in front of the plate, getting the bunt down.
Now the infield drawn in. Whitley swings and fouls it away. Nearly popped that up into the glove of Vanderford. Count 0-1 to Whitley.
So think about these 3 runners for Coastal Bend, and all 3 runners getting on, you feel like the Monarchs maybe possibly had a chance of recording an out. Instead, bases full, nobody down.
0-1. Foul away again. Count runs to 0-2. If you're Wesley right now, you want one of 3 things. A strikeout, a pop-up for an infield fly, or a ground ball hit right to an infielder to make a play at home.
Yeah, no doubt, especially with the fact that Anzaldo is looming on the horizon there in the on-deck circle.
No balls, 2 strikes. Wesley gets Whitley to pop up, this time out of play. And we've talked about that, the importance of the 2-strike, 2-out approach, and really with 2 strikes so far in the game, the lineup has been really effective for the Tidal Wave against Wesley.
Yeah, big piece of winning. Big piece of being competitive against an opposing pitcher.
Rolls away, but all the runners stay. Whitley didn't offer either. And now it's 1-2. Kelly Torres behind the plate, former Duke Blue Devil. Her battery made of the circle, Aspen Wesley. Wrapped up her college career not long ago in Mississippi State. Now both playing in the WPF semifinals. 1-2 pitch on the ground and through for a base hit. That's going to increase the lead. The Tidal Wave goes station to station as Garcia scores to make it 3-0.
Look at Whitley here. Nice job, able to yank that just past the diving sand, the second baseman. And we already said it, as there's going to be a meeting in the circle. The Monarchs, it's do or die. Can't sit back and let Coastal Bend build too much of a lead, even though I'm sure the Monarchs have a lot of confidence in their offense.
You see Sona Halajan getting loose right now for acting head coach Tyler Gunnelson. Thought I just saw Jaden Vickers come back into the dugout, but I don't know if she's ready to go. And here comes Daniel Maldonado to break up this meeting of the minds in the circle. And what is the decision here from Tyler Gunnelson? It looks like the decision is to keep Wesley in. Halajan probably just not ready to go yet.
Yeah, but down in the bullpen, they're getting ready in a hurry. Again, recognizing the magnitude of the situation. Because let's remember, bases loaded, nobody out, and look who's up.
Halajan, Alexa DeFeo, along with the bullpen catcher Jenna Keene, and there's Jaden Vickers. Anzaldo with a drive, deep to center, grand slam, Tatum Anzaldo. 7-0 Coastal Bend. What a start to the semifinals.
All over it was Anzaldo. Remember what I said back in the first inning, that one of the parts of the strategy, the plan against the Tidal Wave, is have Anzaldo come up with nobody on. Brant, that's why. Look at that.
She has seen 2 pitches in the game, and this Monarchs killer is 2 for 2 with a single and a towering homer to center field.
The crazy thing is, I'm not sure if we'll get a look at it again, but Anzaldo was kind of out on her front foot, but was still able to keep her hands back enough, and she's able to fire her hips well enough that she was able to blast that ball to straightaway center field.
Well, the Monarchs on their heels early on here for a team riding so much momentum. The Coastal Bend has jumped on top of them 7-0. Swing and a miss, 0-2.
Are you ready to roll your eyes at me for the first time tonight?
Okay.
I know there are more coming, but I'm going to say this. If you're going to be down 7-0, I'd rather be down 7-0 in the second inning than the 6th inning.
Meanwhile, Cannon hit by pitch. Still nobody out in the inning here. Wesley had pitched really well against this lineup when these two last met a couple of weeks ago. Wesley in that start got the win, 6 innings, gave up 4 earned runs. But again, you talk about the familiarity these lineups have with these pitching staffs, only a 4-team league. And, you know, the Tidal Wave have seen Wesley quite a bit this year. Lynch now with a high fly to left. That will lead to the inning's first outs. And Cannon was all the way towards third base. They're going to double her off at first easily. I think Cannon may have, lost track of the outs. There were none in the inning, and don't know how she wound up at third. Maybe she thought the ball was going to go. Either way, that is an easy double play for the Monarchs.
Yeah, partner, I don't have much to add other than that last part of what you said, is that maybe the way things have been going, it was well struck off the bat that maybe Cannon just assumed that ball was flying out of here.
Yeah, because I can't think you lose track of the outs when none have been recorded in the inning.
Yeah, and there weren't any weird plays, crazy plays where maybe as somebody in the dugout on deck circle, you kind of lose the math. But that could prove to be pivotal.
1 ball, 1 strike to Jimenez. A 5-run seconds here for Coastal Bend. RBI single, Tate Whitley, and a granny from Tatum Anzaldo.
Yeah, think about Anzaldo's 2 at-bats tonight. They have a common denominator. Went right back up the middle. Just a great approach. I don't care what level of softball you're watching, but these have been professional at-bats by Anzaldo tonight.
The team watching on right now, the Texas Smoke, getting a bye to the Championship Series. The league is off tomorrow. The Championship Series starts Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Here in St. Marcus, we'll have it for you on the WPF's official YouTube channel. Smoke looking for back-to-back titles this year. Jimenez flies 1 to center. St. Clair is in to end the inning. But what an inning for Coastal Bend. Tatum Anzaldo continues to haunt the Monarchs this year. First pitch you saw from Aspen Wesley sent it to deep center for a grand slam. A 5-run second has puts the Tidal Wave on top, 7-0 as we go to the bottom of the seconds in the semifinals. Now, folks, we do want to know that the Monarchs are playing with a very heavy heart tonight. Tyler Guttleson, the acting head coach, in place of Candace Fitton-Bachbrader, who's been away from the team since late July following a family emergency involving a motorcycle accident with Coach Bachbrader's husband and her stepson. And we are troubled to say that her stepson passed away in the middle of the night last night. So our thoughts are definitely with Coach Bachbrader and her entire family, her husband as well. And again, tough circumstances for the Monarchs to play through, but they play on here in the postseason and doing so with heavy hearts.
Yeah, no doubt, Brand. Absolutely heartbreaking. And you and I, like so many, everyone watching tonight, understand that this is a game. This is something that the players, the coaches, all of us are involved in for fun. But there are many, many things that go well beyond what takes place on a softball field in a stadium. And yeah, just so much sadness. Definitely our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends.
There was a moment of silence held before the game in acknowledgement of Coach Bachbrader and her family's loss. And her team playing right now with their honor. As we go to the bottom of the second, it is a 7-0 game. Coastal Bend has exploded early on here. Got 2 on a 2-run homer in the first from Trinity Cannon. Got another run in the second, but then later in the inning, a grand slam from Tatum Anzaldo has really widened the gap to 7-0 as Torres lines one deep to left but foul into the trees there, knocking some leaves off the branches. And it's 2-1, so a 7-0 game, but as Bill said, a lot of softball to go.
And whenever it is, and the championship's going to wrap up either Thursday or Friday, when we think back,
Torres, a drive to center, and that's going to go. The roof of the tool shed getting worked tonight. And Torres has put the Monarchs on the board with a one-out solo bomb.
And I'm going to finish that thought by saying when we think back, we're going to think about the home runs. 2 big swings by Coastal Bend to help build those 7 runs. And right on cue, Torres does what she's been doing all summer, and that is bombs away.
Well, Kelly Torres bringing out the lumber here. Homered twice against the Tidal Wave in the series a couple of weeks ago. That makes a trip around the bases as the Monarchs are on the board now at 7-1. And that'll bring up Lily Piper.
I'll add this, though. What Lynch would tell us and the Coastal Bend staff would tell us is at least nobody was on.
Well, back-to-back jacks there for the Monarchs. Piper goes deep. In the WPF, the way the ball is flying off the bat, these games never over. 7-2, and here come the Monarchs.
Why not Lily Piper, who herself, starting with the opening weekend, she's announced herself as one of the premier power hitters in the WPF.
Well, Lynch left that ball elevated, and Piper didn't miss it. Back-to-back homers here for the Monarchs, and here we go. 7-2 game.
And we've seen Brookshire display pop this summer.
She's up now, looks at a ball up from Lynch, 1-0.
I was kind of joking, I did the whole roll your eyes at me thing, but again, if you're going to fall behind 7-0, do it early. Don't do it late. There is activity in the Tidal Wave bullpen. It's all hands on deck.
That would be Cassie Valdez getting loose right now for the Tidal Wave. As Brookshire looks at strike 1. Bill talked about Brookshire's power. Referenced that series a couple of weeks ago. Brookshire 5 for 9 against the Tidal Wave, homered twice. Also had a couple of doubles, drove in 4. Looks at ball 3. So we have seen 9 runs scored, 8 of them courtesy of home runs.
Of course, the one that really jumps out of the scorebook is Anzaldo and her granny. The grand slam, when you can put up 4 in one swing, that's big time.
A walk to Brookshire. That'll bring up Emily Hott, 7-2 game in the bottom of the second. Winner moves on to the championship series to take on the Texas Smoke. They wrapped up their regular season 28-1. Hub City failing to qualify for the playoffs, go 6-25. In the semifinals between the second and third seeded teams, Monarchs and Tidal Wave. And now Emily Hott keeps the bat on her shoulder early on in the at-bat from Edmond, Oklahoma, former Baylor Bear. Had a really impressive final season in Waco, hitting .326 and hit a career-high 11 homers of her own.
You spent some time up there on the Brazos River, here on Baylor's campus.
It's a beautiful campus, and you mentioned, the Brazos and the baseball and softball stadiums, both just off the Brazos. That's away. 3-0 here to Emily Hott.
Think about the way this inning started. It was a hard ground ball shot up the middle. Nice play by Anzaldo at short, but since then the Monarchs have been piecing things together.
No way, Hot swinging there and takes a strike. Riley St. Clair waits on deck. A couple of more runners reach here. The top of the order is coming up after that. And these games can get really offensive really quick, especially between these two. Hot swinging, grounds it off the glove of Lynch. Wiggins is second, back to first, and she got it in time for a 4-3 twin killing. The concentration from Rylan Wiggins to make that play to end the inning, but the Monarchs may be back into the game here. They go back-to-back. Kelly Torres with a home run to put the Monarchs on the board. After the blast from the former Duke Blue Devil, it was Lily Piper, the ex-Buckeye, going deep. It is a 7-2 game as we go to the third in the WPF semifinals. Well, look at the stands here at Texas State's Bobcat Softball Stadium. A lot of Texas State softball here. Head coach Ricky Woodard on the right. Couple of her players in attendance as well. Katarina Zarate and Carmen Bass. And sitting behind them, Ricky Woodard's brother and assistant, Scott, on the staff. And this program knows all about postseason softball in this ballpark this year, Bill, don't they?
Absolutely. Hosted the Sun Belt Conference Tournament Championships here. Coach Woodard and her squad winning that one. The Sun Belt Conference, like many of the so-called mid-major softball leagues across the country, very good, very competitive softball. And then with Wiggins coming up, it's appropriate to add that Ricky Woodard and her Bobcats went over and competed in the College Station Regional, made it to Championship Sunday against, guess who? Texas A&M.
Meanwhile, you peek into the circle and look at Sona Halajan into the game now, replacing Aspen Wesley. Wesley going 2 innings, giving up 7 earned runs. And Halajan is in now. 7-2 game as we go to the top of the third inning. Coastal Bend on top. Last time Halajan pitched against this lineup, 5 scoreless innings, got the win in that 8-0 run rule a couple of Sundays ago.
Yeah, she was an absolute lawnmower that day. Very effective, got good defense, and her marching orders right now, quite frankly, put up zeros. Now that the Monarchs offense has a little bit of momentum, you as a pitcher, you want your batters, your offense, right back up to the plate.
Bottom third of the order batting here for the Tidal Wave at the top of the third. Wiggins, Garcia, and Chellerman. What got kind of lost in those back-to-back homers hit by the Monarchs in the second was that great defensive play made by Wiggins to turn 2.
Yeah, tremendous play that actually hooks that one foul, but ends up going 1-4-3 in the scorebook. But when we look back at tonight's game, we don't know what the outcome will be yet. That could be proved to be one of the biggest plays, if not the biggest defensive play of the game. Because remember, the count was 3 balls and no strikes to Hot. And then Lynch was able to get it to 3-1, and that's when Hot chopped it back up the middle. It glanced off of Lynch's glove, and Wiggins was the beneficiary and did a nice job at turning the double play.
Now here's a look at that play from Ryland Wiggins that ended the bottom of the second. Bill described it off the glove, and the way that it kind of went off of Lynch's glove as well. Not easy for Wiggins to field it that way.
Yeah, kind of had to pause for a second, had the presence of mind to go to the bag and made a strong, accurate throw over to first when it looked like the Monarchs had something brewing.
Also, if you recall earlier in the game, Wiggins at the plate, barely missing a 3-run homer of her own.
Yeah, that ball, you and I talked about it, when it sailed past the fair pole, it almost got paint on it. Not quite.
Halajan's 2-2. On the ground and by Vanderford into left for a leadoff single. Boy, the offensive display here from Coastal Bend. 3 innings in, 7 runs, and now 8 hits.
You mentioned that run rule that wrapped up the series a couple of weekends ago. In that game, Coastal Bend no runs on 3 hits. I think the Tidal Wave came into tonight's playoff game with a plan. Maybe trying to exact a little bit of revenge. That left a sour taste in their mouths a couple of weekends ago.
Big rip and a miss by Garcia. Double deep off the wall in Rice in her first AB. Had that leadoff double in the seconds. Coastal Bend wound up scoring 5 in the second inning. The big hit, the grand slam from Tatum Anzaldo. Alajanzo 1. That's high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Not to belabor the point, but a situation here where the Monarchs cannot trade blows with Coastal Bend. You need zeros if you're the Monarchs.
Popped up. Vanderford from third reaches up, makes a catch in front of her former coach and teammates in attendance. And that's the first out of the inning.
Of course, Vanderford very comfortable with the real estate here at Bobcat Softball Complex as she turns over her shoulder. Knows exactly where the dugout is, knows exactly where the fencing is down the left field side. All the talk about Vanderford's offensive prowess, and for good reason. She is really good with the glove as well.
Strike 1 to Grace Chellerman. On the topic of former Sunbelt players, Chellerman hailing from Marshall. Closed out her Thundering Herd career in 2023. And still wearing the We Are armband. You know, the fact that she's an assistant in the Sunbelt in a different program, Southern Miss, I find it interesting, wearing the Marshall gear as opposed to, say, Southern Miss's gear.
Yeah, it might be a conversation piece when she gets back to Hattiesburg.
But I would counter from Grace Chellerman, that's the alma mater. I played there.
And that is the rebuttal.
Fly ball, left center field, deep and gone. Chellerman going opposite field. Another Tidal Wave home run. Back to a 7-run lead. It is 9-2.
As I look around the stands here, Brand, I almost feel like Oprah Winfrey should pop out and just start saying, you get a home run and you get a home run. A nice job of going opposite field there. Chellerman stays inside the ball and drives it out of here. And I can't help but peek. Maybe it's because I've been to quite a few games in my life. I look at the flags. It's not as though there's some kind of wind tunnel tonight at Bobcat Softball Stadium. Just really good hitting approach by Coastal Bend.
Well, you close your eyes, you think you're watching the Texas Smoke right now, right? This has just been a clinic put on by Coastal Bend tonight. For a team that, again, came in having lost 6 of 7, got beat in this series just 2 weeks ago.
Including a run rule to kind of as the exclamation point to that series.
Well, think about this. Not only, having lost 4 in a row going into the postseason, Ochoa with the ground ball to Piper, all 4 losses, run rule losses. The 1 to the Monarchs, 3 to the Smoke. But when you narrow things down to 1 game, none of that stuff matters.
You take out the big eraser. You know, you can talk about stats, right, and wind direction and where the sun's setting and all that stuff. It does not matter. It's all magnified. And Coastal Bend, they have come to play and they have brought the bats.
Whitley to left, and a nice catch on her knees by Emily Hott. And that's going to end the top of the 3rd inning. And yet again, Coastal Bend going deep. Grace Chellerman, an opposite field home run. So far in the game, 3 innings, 3 homers for the Tidal Wave. They lead 9-2 over the Texas Monarchs. kind of wonder what's going on in the mind of the dugout of the players in the Monarchs dugout right now. Team trailing 9-2, just got 2 runs in the bottom of the second, maybe getting some momentum, but the Tidal Wave grabbing it right back. A 2-run homer. Grace Chellerman in the top of the third has once again made this a 7-run game, 9-2, with the Monarchs batting here in the third inning.
You would think this Monarchs, some of it would have to be a little bit of surprise for all the reasons that you said. These players, there are no secrets by this point, and with what Coastal Bend has done offensively, I think the Monarchs, it is a little bit of, oh my goodness, we need to collect ourselves and do so quickly.
Riley St. Clair, leadoff batter, pops up on a 1-1 pitch, and Jimenez can't squeeze it to third baseman. And that'll keep the at-bat alive here for St. Clair. We were talking about the tough stretch for the Tidal Wave coming into the postseason. Losers of 4 in a row, to include all 4 losses being run rule defeats. Well, we can inform you that in the playoffs, the run rule is in effect. Just worth noting the 7-run game here in the third.
Remember what I said last half inning about how Vanderford went back on a ball, looked really comfortable, and there Jimenez. This is a foreign ballpark to her, even though she's played her a few times, and you saw her kind of struggle with that pop out. And St. Clair, let's see what she does with this extra life here. Should have been an out.
Count full to St. Clair, batting for the first time here tonight. Another Mississippi State Bulldog X, as was her starting pitcher, Aspen Wesley.
If St. Clair gets on, she can be disruptive on the bases, and look who's coming up.
On the ground to Wiggins. He's played well at second base tonight. 1 away here in the bottom of the third inning will bring us back to the top of the order to Kylie Sand.
And there's a big out. Instead of having Sand come up with St. Clair out there and may be able to put people in motion here, try to build a big inning. Instead, it's almost like the Monarchs are starting from scratch in a sense.
One ball, no strikes to Sand. Facing Lynch for a second time.
Sorry, partner. There is activity in either bullpen. Every out that Lynch is able to earn, just gives Valdez more time to get ready and shortens her work.
You have to imagine Lynch pitching with a lot of confidence right now. Her team has given her a 7-run cushion. So you know this, as far as the strike zone goes, you attack it.
Yeah, don't even have to live on the edges, right? You can challenge the hitters. But the Monarchs, meanwhile, are confronted with that idea that you can't have as a hitter. You can't go up there saying, I'm going to hit a 5-run homer. I'm going to get us back into it. The Monarchs are going to get back into this. They are going to have to string together really good at-bats and then find shutdown innings.
Keep in mind this team over the last 2 games scoring 32 runs in their doubleheader sweep over Hub City on Friday. A lot of game to go here. You look back at their offensive production in this series a couple of weeks ago, 33 hits, homered 7 times, stole 5 bases. More than capable of overcoming this deficit, but the margin for error is getting smaller by the out.
That's that old 35-footer there that Lynch bounced in. Almost looked like cricket. It is a warm night. It's been a warm summer. Just one of the reasons I tip my cap to all of these athletes. The way they've battled game in and game out throughout the 2024 WPF season.
All 4 teams located in Texas, and the 3 ballparks, the 3 cities that the league was headquartered in, all of them very hot. Lubbock, Robstown, San Marcos.
Yeah, maybe little variations of hot, but hot is the pivotal word.
Lynch Sees that ball smacked into right center off the bat. It's Sand. Bounces off the wall. And Sand has herself a double with one out in the third inning. And she's on for the first time.
Yeah, really nice at bat there. I think there, yeah, Lynch got that pitched elevated above the belt, and Sand knew what to do with it. Down 9-2. Sand isn't going to risk making the turn at second and try to stretch that thing into a triple. You're in scoring position, and you have two really good run producers coming up.
Flaherty the batter. Vanderford after that. Just saw the pitching coach, Joe Marabito, come out for Coastal Bend, but now it looks like head coach Blake Miller is going to make the call now to make a change.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm terribly surprised. When Coastal Bend arrived at the ballpark, I think having a lead 9-2 going to the bottom of the third inning would have exceeded their wildest expectations, and for Lynch to be able to get the outs she did, I think exactly what Coastal Bend was looking for. But you know Valdez has had success. You know Valdez has had success against the Monarchs. I think this is a great situation to not let something build for the Monarchs.
So now we see Cassie Valdez into the game. Valdez in a start against the Monarchs a couple of weeks ago struck out 12 in 6 innings of work, but also surrendered 7 earned runs. 10 and a third innings pitched in that series. 17 strikeouts for Valdez. Her strikeout numbers are really impressive, has one of the more effective changeups in the league, but also has a tendency to give up the home run ball.
Yeah, going to have to keep it down. Going to have to kind of live on the edges there, try to get those strike calls on the corners because, yeah, if you miss middle against who the Monarchs have coming up, this score could change in a hurry.
Valdez getting in her final warm-up pitches. She did pitch over the weekend against the Smoke. 5 innings in that series, gave up 10 earned, and talked about the long ball. Surrendered 6 homers in those 5 innings against the Smoke.
And that is precisely what the Monarchs are looking to do here. Yeah, you mentioned even Flaherty gets in the act with her pop, but then when you have Vanderford, Halajan, and Piper right around the corner, 9-2 might not exist for very long if Coastal Bend doesn't tread carefully here.
Valdez gets in her warm-up pitches, and now will take on Devin Flaherty. Runner at second base, 1 away here in the third. Tidal Wave jumping out to a 7-0 lead. Monarchs got 2 in the bottom of the second, but then Grace Chellerman with a 2-run homers pushed the league back out to 7. 9-2 as Flaherty gets ready here. Valdez finishing tying her shoe, and we're about ready to go. Cassie Valdez out of Brownsville, Texas, product from Our Lady of the Lake, an NAIA powerhouse in San Antonio that won the national championship. So another player with plenty of postseason experience in this game.
And Valdez a certain comfort level in the circle here.
Of course, Valdez not the only player with playoff experience. A lot of these players playing in the regionals, the supers, the World Series at the Division I level. As we see a stray ball find its way to the outfield, that's a stray baseball. Gotta go back to the stands or out near the baseball field.
I think there might be a game going on. Of course, the softball stadium adjacent to Bobcat Ballpark. There's no quit in either dugout, so you can almost disregard the score in that sense, that you know the Monarchs aren't going to give up, and you know Coastal Bend not going to take their foot off the accelerator. None of these athletes would have gotten to where they are this evening if they had quit in them.
Popped up by Flaherty. That's out of play. That'll run the count to ball and 2 strikes. Devin Flaherty played at Florida State's Seminole program that's made plenty of deep runs into the postseason. Flaherty part of some great teams in Tallahassee. And awaits the 1-2 from Valdez. Drives that one, right field, and cutting it off short of the warning track to make the catch is Chellerman. A productive out, though, will move Flaherty, or Sand rather, now to third base, but now there's 2 outs.
Yeah, up 9-2. I know Valdez and the Tidal Wave would gladly trade an out for a base in this situation. So you're right, it is productive in the sense that Sand is able to gain a base, but when you're down 9-2, you're looking for crooked numbers.
Vanderford struck out against Lynch earlier, facing Valdez for the first time. Vanderford's got history against Valdez. Hit a walk-off 3-run homer against Valdez in that series opener a couple of weeks back.
Good take there. Vanderford able to lay off that pitch right off the outside corner. I think Valdez, the approach, and we've seen it from other pitchers, you try to stay away from Vanderford. If you miss middle or in, Vanderford gets a barrel to it, it's gone.
Vanderford, one of the top rookies in the WPF this year. A lot of home run power, 7 homers at our home ballpark. The all-time home run leader for the Texas State program. And has a hitter's count coming up from Valdez.
Yeah, Valdez again trying to work outside to stay away from Vanderford's power. And problem is not able to catch that outside edge. Don't forget Halajan, who had a grand slam of her own this past weekend. She's got some pop.
Waits in the on-deck circle. 3-1 from Valdez. And Vanderford takes her walk. So now runners first and third, 2 away. And to the plate, Sona Halajan, as Bill talked about, has some pop in her bat as well. See her playing both ways in the game. Currently the pitcher in the circle for the Monarchs. Now at the plate. A 2-way player at UCF this year. First pitch, drilled foul.
You even go back to the home runs that the Tidal Wave have hit tonight. You and I have had this conversation throughout this summer. It's not always the home run. It's what happens in front of the home run that really matters.
Quick chat, Julie Jimenez and Cassie Valdez as Halajan bats here. Sand at third base, Vanderford at first. We've seen some momentum swings, albeit the pendulum has swung far more in Coastal Bend's favor in the game, but it could swing again if Halajan gets a hold of one here.
A blast would recolor this game without question.
1 ball, 1 strike. Halajan lays off the changeup. Talked about the effective off-speed pitch from Valdez on display there.
Knee buckler. You saw Halajan there, I think, was looking fastball, looking something up, and that was a tremendous pitch. Kind of pitching backwards in the count.
1-2. Fought off by Halajan. If she can reach, Kelly Torres, who homered early in the game, awaits on deck. After her, Piper, who's also gone deep.
What did Yogi Berra say, Brant? One of your Yankee favorites? Something about it ain't over or something.
What didn't he say? So many Yogiisms out there.
But one of them, and he was right, it's not over till the final out. Good take there by Halajan, because you know Halajan, your team's down 9-2. You know she's ramped up. You know her heartbeat's going. Able to control it there and lay off. Down 9-2 is not the time to expand your zone.
2-2. Halajan lays off with a pitch that just missed the outer part of the plates. Fills the count, 3 balls, 2 strikes. A gutsy take there by Halajan.
A big time take, and now with the count 3-2, 2 down, that'll give Vanderford at first base a little bit of a head start. So if Halajan can go gapper, could be trouble.
Halajan goes around and strikes out. Huge pitch from Valdez. And that pendulum stays on the side of the Coastal Bend Tidal Wave. On the strikeout, the Monarchs strand 2. We've played 3. We go to the 4th, 9-2 Tidal Wave in the WPF semis. In a game with a lot of massive swings, none more so than this one from Tatum Anzaldo, a grand slam. Part of a 5-run second inning at the time, put her team on top 7-0. As we go to the 4th inning, the Tidal Wave still on top by 7, 9-2, and Anzaldo leading off here in the 4th.
And we just watched Anzaldo, the biggest at-bat, of course, of the game so far. And what I go back to is her power again, where it looked like Anzaldo was kind of on that front foot, but still able to keep her hands back enough and then fired her hands and took it out of here to the deepest part of the ballpark. That was impressive. Made you really happy if you're a Coastal Bend fan.
She's facing Halajan for the first time. She saw Aspen Wesley twice, saw 2 pitches, went after them both, a single and that grand slam. 9-2 as we start the 4th inning here from San Marcos. Swing and a miss, strike 1. So Anzaldo still swinging up there.
She sure is, and almost came out of her shoes there. And another piece of evidence on how important this game is tonight. This isn't some random Thursday in early July. Both bullpens are active. Double barrel action in the Monarchs pen, and also activity in the Tidal Wave bullpen down in the right field corner. These coaches do not want to go to bed tonight asking themselves, what if?
1 ball, 1 strike to Anzaldo. That's low from Halajan. Speaking of Sona Halajan, as you look at that bullpen, Trinity Slaughterback, Jaden Vickers getting loose. For the Monarchs, Halajan had a chance to break into this 7-run deficit in the 3rd inning. But what a pitch from Cassie Valdez to strike her out with runners at first and third base. As the count here runs to 3-1. You and I had the conversation, if Halajan had gotten a hold of one, turns the game around a bit, the momentum back in the Monarchs' favor, but didn't happen. You give Valdez credit on a great pitch.
I don't know how many times you and I have said it tonight, but everything's magnified. Each pitch, each bat, each play.
And Anzaldo continues to befuddle Monarch pitching. 2 for 2, and on for a 3rd time of the walk. Leadoff walk here in the 4th. Leadoff batter has reached to now 3 straight innings for Coastal Bend. Cannon's gone deep in this game. A 2-run homer, perhaps a tone setter back in the first.
Kind of what I was thinking as well, Brant, because the ball game started for Aspen Wesley with back-to-back groundouts of Ochoa and Whitley, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, she's going to settle, cruise right in, and there's another hit for Coastal Bend.
Rolls all the way to the wall, bounces off the wall. Anzaldo not running all that well. A couple of weeks removed from suffering a lower leg injury. Motors in the third, but now second to third, and nobody outs here for Coastal Bend. If Anzaldo is 100%, she probably scores.
Yeah, there in left center, you saw, I think it was Hot and St. Clair out there not getting the ball in perfectly. And in what I almost feel like, Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, and what feels like a half inning where the Monarchs have to put up a 0. Coastal Bend is mounting another threat. It's unbelievable.
Halajan, last time she faced this lineup, shut them out. 5 innings, no runs, 3 hits, and an 8-0 run rule. But here we are now, about 13 days, give or take, removed from that game, a much different story.
Yeah, remember all the soft contact Coastal Bend had in that game as well?
Mm-hmm. Nothing soft about the contact tonight. Just saw Jaden Vickers come back from the bullpen into the dugout. Came back along with her teammate Jada Kearney. If there's any change coming, it's not coming at the moment, though, as Halajan's going to stay in a sticky spot here. Second and third, nobody out. And already a 7-run lead. With Anzaldo not running all that well, she's going to come out of the game for a pinch runner, and Rock Benavidez is going to run in her place at third.
I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that Anzaldo will be back in the lineup.
1,000%.
That's called analysis.
Here's Lynch. Has done some pretty good work so far in the circle for the Tidal Wave. You look back at her start before handing the ball off to Casey Valdez, going 2 1/3, giving up the 2 earned runs off 3 hits. And now at the plate, runner second and third with nobody out in the fourth. And the 1-0 up the middle. That's going to get through for a hit. Benavidez is going to score. Cannon's going to stop at third. On her way to second is Lynch. Second and third again with a run home, and now it is 10-2.
Another really, really good at-bat by a Tidal Wave batter. And look at the back end of this as St. Clair comes up throwing, because she doesn't know there's a stop sign at third base, but Lynch never stopped rounding first base. And, of course, by getting to second base, she eliminates the forced play, puts herself into scoring position as the Tidal Wave continue to put pressure on the Monarchs.
Julie Jimenez looks at ball one up from Sona Halajan. And have the Tidal Wave made their presence felt in the postseason here, or what? A 2-run first, 5 in the second, 2 in the third, another here in the fourth inning. An 8-run lead, 10-2. Fouled away, 1 ball, 1 strike to Jimenez. And the damage could continue to grow here if you're the Monarchs, because there's nobody out, runners second and third base. And you can ill afford to let this deficit grow any larger.
Well, I felt like we said that 2 innings ago. But, yeah, it's certainly exclamation point here. So you're in the middle of the game, midway point of the game. And maybe you, earlier, you alluded to it, and maybe it's the biggest compliment that you could pay for the Tidal Wave's offense. Very smoke-like. And everybody who follows the WPF, you know what I'm saying.
Two-one pitch, hammer to left field, and that's gonna go. Julie Jimenez, a 3-run bomb. It is a barrage by the Tidal Wave on top, 13-2.
It is a Tidal Wave
You spoke about the game plan this team had. They have stayed to it to a T. The Monarchs just cannot find a way to pitch to this lineup. Batters 1 through 9 as Jimenez going deep for a 4th straight game. And now the lead balloons to 11.
4th inning, Brant, of this ball game. And everybody in the batting order for the Tidal Wave has scored at least 1 run. So, yes, what you just said, from top to bottom, the Tidal Wave, everybody has brought the stick tonight.
And that'll bring in the 3rd pitcher of the game for the Monarchs. Trinity Schlotterbeck is in after a tough outing for Sona Halajan. So Halajan relieved the starter, Aspen Wesley. Goes an inning, giving up 6 earned off of 5 hits at a 13-2 deficit. Boy, you never want to take Sharpies when filling out your postseason bracket. But you're reaching for it right now for the championship series, potentially between the Smoke and Coastal Bend, who the Smoke just swept in 3 games this past weekend.
And I get the feeling, because we are in the postseason, that what happened last weekend, especially with the way the Tidal Wave are swinging it right now, what happened last weekend happened last weekend. There is a big reset button when you get to playoff time.
So Schlotterbeck in now trying to fan the flames here in the 4th inning. Schlotterbeck from Williamsport, Maryland. 4 years of Maryland Terrapin. Then after that, 1 year at FAU. Got a save against Coastal Bend and a loss last time these two Mets up the middle. Hot shot right back to her off of Wiggins' bat. 1 pitch and 1 out for Schlotterbeck out of the bullpen.
However, again, hard contact by the Tidal Wave. Good approach there by Wiggins, trying to go back up the middle, but Schlotterbeck showing her athleticism, her ability to field her position. Nice play.
1 out, and that's grounded foul by Garcia.
As you and I had our production calls, our meetings, Brant, in the lead up to tonight's game, this was not a scenario that you and I discussed or thought of.
Really thought we'd have a nice back and forth, competitive, down to the final out type of game, and while there is a lot of game to go, with Coastal Bend is just hammering things home right now, proven to be the better team through 3 1/3 innings by a wide margin, 13-2 here in the 4th.
In the bottom of the 2nd, when the Monarchs got their 2 runs, we sensed something was brewing, and that's when the 1-4-3 double play ended that inning. But you still thought, okay, the Monarchs have time to collect themselves and get things going offensively. But you and I, each and every time we added a qualifier, we said the Monarchs have to put up zeros. And the Tidal Wave have emphatically said, nuh-uh.
Swing and a miss, a foul tip, strikeout. Garcia goes down on strikes. In every inning so far, the Tidal Wave have hit a homer from 4 different players. The 2-run shot from Trinity Cannon in the 1st. The grand slam from Anzaldo in the 2nd. Chellerman batting now, a 2-run homer of her own in the 3rd. And the 3-run homer from Jimenez here in the 4th inning. And the onslaught continues for Coastal Bend as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Another home run for the Tidal Wave. Julia Jimenez homering for a 4th consecutive game. A 3-run shot has put her team on top of the semis by 11. We go to the bottom of the 4th. It's Coastal Bend 13 and the Monarchs 2. How about the scenery here in Central Texas? Shades of pink and blue and a little bit of orange as the sun sets in San Marcos as we head to the bottom of the fourth inning in the WPF semifinals. 13-2 Coastal Bend on top of the host Monarchs.
And that was kudos to our crew. But that is a perfect scene to come back to, all those colors. When you think of all the ways that the Tidal Wave have gotten things done offensively with pinks and blues and grays and whites.
A wonderful tapestry of colors from the Tidal Wave.
And if you're a Tidal Wave fan, a tapestry of offense. Home runs, singles, walks, base running, runs.
And from different individuals up and down the order as well. It hasn't been that one player.
Did our crew do that on purpose? Because that was right on cue.
Our crew does everything on purpose. Torres a ground ball, backheaded by Jimenez, but it was fouled. And the count of the leadoff batter, Torres, 0-2. Jimenez, who just attempted to make that play, as we know, hit a 3-run homer of her own at the top of this inning.
It's almost like you don't even have to glance at your scorebook. You can just say such and such Tidal Wave player hit a home run, and chances are you'll be right. But in Jimenez's case, you're 100% correct. And Valdez, just like Lynch before, throw strikes.
Swing and a miss, strikes out. Garcia is unable to make the throw, though, from behind the plate, so Torres is on a drop third strike. So strikeout, yes, for Valdez. That's her second, but a runner on with nobody out.
And Garcia there, some of you maybe sitting there at home, you might be yelling, throw the ball, but Garcia, she understands time and score as well, and she doesn't want to airmail that thing down the right field line and Torres end up at third base. Right now, the Tidal Wave ahead 13-2. You want to make the Monarchs earn anything and everything.
Piper, who homered early in the game, takes a strike here. You think about the story of the game. Coastal Bend jumped out to 7-0 lead, but then the Monarchs got a blip of momentum at the bottom of the second. Back-to-back homers, Torres and Piper made it 7-2, but Coastal Bend was unfazed. Next inning, scoring twice, blanking the Monarchs in the bottom of the third, and then 4 more in the top of the fourth. They have scored 6 unanswered since the Monarchs got those homers, and on top by 11.
Yeah, 4 of the home runs for Coastal Bend, multi-run home runs. The Monarchs, those home runs in the second were solo shots.
And now if you're the Monarchs here, you've got 6 outs to erase the deficit to less than 8 to avoid getting run ruled in a postseason game.
You've got to suppress that human instinct, right, of these players love each other. They love their teammates. You have to get rid of that thought of, though, I'm going to do everything for my team.
Piper with the drive, right field. Chelman into the warning track, makes the catch. Torres will bluff going to second base. Well, there's no way, if you're a Monarch player, you're running into outs right now.
Yeah, absolutely not. I want to go back. Not sure we get a look at Chelman there, but she did a tremendous job of racing back to the track and making sure that she was underneath that ball. Sometimes you'll watch inexperienced outfielders, they try to time arriving as the ball's coming down, and that's when you can get in trouble.
Strike one to Brookshire. If you're curious about a potential matchup in the championship series between Coastal Bend and the Smoke won the regular season series 11 games to none. Swing and a miss. And Brookshire falls behind 2 strikes. And of course, those two teams just met here in San Marcos over the weekend. A 3-game sweep for the Smoke. All 3 wins, run rules.
May I editorialize for a moment?
Please.
Okay. I don't know if you and I have 2 or 3 hours remaining in this broadcast, but partner, think back to your sporting fan broadcasting life. How many times the underdog has done the unexpected?
A lot of game to go in this one, though, for the Tidal Wave business to attend to as Brookshire fouls one to her coach.
And you're right. We want to be fair to the Monarchs as well, because the Monarchs have proven this summer that they can put together a lot of offense quickly. So, yeah, let's not close up the scorebooks yet.
Roll to third, Jimenez to second, and the throw to first sails wide, but the forced play was made at second base, so Torres retired, 2 outs in the inning here in the fourth. And you mentioned, how many times have you heard the great story of an underdog, the David slaying Goliath type of thing, and I'll say this too, in Coastal Bend's favor going into a potential series, is that over the course of 30 regular season games, no doubt the Smoke proved themselves to be far and away the best team in the league. But you're not proving that over 30 games now. You have to prove it over potentially 3.
And weird things can happen, right? The difference between a ball off the wall or a ball caught on the run at the warning track. Somebody comes out in the circle, a.k.a. Valdez. She's shown flashes of brilliance this summer. Could come out and find a way to limit. You're not going to shut down, but limit that Smoke lineup. Yeah, all the scenarios, right? Miracle on ice. You're talking to a Baltimore Orioles fan who will never forget the 1969 World Series where the Mets didn't have a chance, so on and so forth.
You okay with me bringing up the Colts and Jets too?
No, I said enough, but I'm joking. But yeah, you and I have done games together. Once upon a time, we traveled with the Texas State football team over to the University of Houston, and that Bobcat football team had no chance, according to the so-called experts.
0-2 up the middle. Wiggins will flip it, or she will receive the flip from the new second baseman into the game now, Rock Benavidez. He makes a play, and that's going to end the fourth inning. We go to the fifth. Tidal Wave perhaps in position for a run rule as we return. Here, San Marcos is 13-2. We go to the top of the fifth inning, a look at the Texas Smoke in attendance. There's Samantha Schau and her head coach, Kat Tarvin. Just 2 of the several members of the Smoke in attendance here tonight, along with team owner Brandon Phillips as well, in one of the suites here at Bobcat Softball Stadium. We're heading, there he is, just off to the side of his team. We're heading to the top of the fifth inning, and perhaps the Smoke have a pretty good idea who they're going to play. Coastal Bend on top of the Monarchs, 13-2, and 3 defensive outs away from an early outing here in the postseason, a potential run rule tonight, and looking to add to this 11-run lead as we go to the top of the fifth. Pinch hitter coming up in place of Malaysia Ochoa. It's Michaela Ramos facing Soderbeck, and the first pitch is a miss for ball 1.
And also, with tomorrow being an off day between the semifinals and the finals, the Tidal Wave will be able to do a little bit of a reset of sorts. But, we just had images of that Smoke, a part of the organization. And to say again, what they have done this summer, absolutely incredible, phenomenal. All phases. They can pitch it. They can hit it. They can defend it. Everything.
2 balls, 1 strike to Ramos. It is the top of the order batting here for the Tidal Wave. Ramos, Whitley, and Benavidez. It does appear Tatum Anzaldo is done for the night. Up 11, don't want to risk any further injury to Anzaldo, provided the team is able to hold on and win the game, as Ramos is going to reach on the errant play at first base.
Yeah, one of those kind of slow choppers to the shortstop. Hit too hard for the third baseman, Vanderford, to cut in front. And Flaherty, who is usually perfect defensively, just an inaccurate throw over to first as she tried to hurry up a little bit. Give credit to Ramos for hustling up the first baseline.
And there is Tatum Anzaldo in the dugout, done for the night. As a pinch runner comes in place of Ramos. Whitley with a base hit to left. Bounces off the wall. Pinch runner on her way to third base. She is tagged out. That was Malaysia Ochoa, who just got pinch hit for by her ex-Iowa State teammates. Michaela Ramos, she's thrown out at third base on a good defensive play here by the Monarchs. Hasn't been much of their night, but a good play moments ago.
Tremendous job there, getting the ball in. A strong, accurate throw. Good tag by Vanderford. When you're up 13-2, you can take a little bit of a gamble on the base paths.
Whitley does wind up at second. Rock Benavidez to center field. St. Clair looking. That's over her head. Routing third and coming to the plate is Whitley. And Rock Benavidez delivers with a base hit to make it 14-2.
It doesn't matter who's come up to the plate for Coastal Bend tonight. Starter, pinch hitter, sub, top of the order, middle of the order, bottom of the order, has not mattered.
Benavidez, a player who's really struggled at the plate, has been a really good defensive player, not so much with a bat. Didn't miss a home run there by much either.
And how fitting on a night, the semifinals, has been a celebration of the WPF. Benavidez, her double almost went through the logo. Dead center WPF.
1 ball, 1 strike to Trinity Cannon, and again perhaps had the tone-setting homer back in the first inning. Made it 2-0 at the time, and a lot of runs scored since then. 1 ball, 1 strike from Slaughterback. Cannon with a fly ball to left. It's going to hook foul.
That's the crazy thing about sports, right? One of the crazy things about sports is you look at any game and you take one moment and you flip it, you change it. What if Cannon pops out?
Yeah.
Where would we be right now? Instead, she goes yard up onto the train tracks. What does that do for her teammates behind her as the Tidal Wave have passed the baton offensively?
And remember, the home run came on 2 strikes as well.
Yeah. Flip it. Make that a ground out. What kind of conversation are we having right now?
On the ground at first. Piper to second base, but it hits the runner, Benavidez. And she's safe. Everybody is safe. Piper just looking for some type of momentum play and perhaps a chance to turn 2. But instead, nobody outs on that play, and that's going to put 2 on with 1 away for Kelly Lynch. And the first pitch rolled foul by Lynch. Lynch, the starting pitcher. And at the plate, 2 for 3 with an RBI and a run scored.
If you're going to talk about Cannon's home run being kind of a trendsetter, key moment for the Tidal Wave, what about Lynch's appearance in the circle? The outs that she was able to get.
And now rolls one up the middle, Flaherty to the bag and to first base. That is a double play to end the inning, and we're going to go to the bottom of the 5th. The Monarchs have 3 outs to cut into the deficit. Down by 12, they've got to score at least 5 times. 14-2. Tidal Wave on top of the Monarchs as we head to the bottom of the 5th in the WPF semifinals. We're back after this from San Marcos. Brandon Phillips, owner of both the Texas Smoke and the Texas Monarchs, in attendance here tonight. His Smoke will be in the championship series starting on Wednesday. I'm sure there was a lot of optimism that both of his teams would be in the finals, but the Monarchs down in a big way as we head to the bottom of the fifth, 14-2. And it looks like we have a date coming up between the Tidal Wave and the Smoke to determine this year's champion.
If you're Brandon Phillips, and I know he was preferring that both of his organizations be in the playoffs, but he will certainly have a clear rooting interest come Wednesday evening. Brandon Phillips, of course, not a stranger to playoff and big-time athletics.
Pinch hitter for the Monarchs, Jenna Keene. I've enjoyed telling her story all season long and what could be her final game this year with the Monarchs. A paramedic out in Orange County, California. That's where the inspiration for her jersey number 64 comes from. The same number as her station number back in Orange County.
Yeah, tremendous story. Just as you said, Brant, just one of the great stories that you find with these athletes participating in the WPF here in the 2024 season, as we've gotten to know Hub City, their players, that organization, and certainly the Texas Monarchs and this organization. Just first-class people participating in a sport they absolutely love.
3-0 to Keene. And on 4 pitches, he takes a 4-pitch walk. Leadoff batter is on. So again, the run rule is in effect in the postseason. And that would mean an 8-run lead after 5, and you do the higher math there, the Monarchs have to score at least 5 runs in this inning to keep the game going.
And that's one way to start it. Earn a free pass. Keene doesn't expand her strike zone, realizing, that her run is significant, but it's not the most important run. Get on base, pass the baton to your teammates.
Kylie Sands swings and a ground ball to first. Cannon to Wiggins, back to Cannon, but that's not in time. Nearly a 3-6-3 double play. Don't get too many of those, but a fielder's choice will lead to the inning's first out.
The Tidal Wave, if there's a checklist on how to perform in a playoff game, they have checked so many boxes tonight to include the defense. For the fact that that was even close to being a double play tells me how locked in Coastal Bend has been tonight.
Devin Flaherty pops up, and that's going to bounce foul. Waiting in the on-deck circle here, Sarah Vanderford, and assuming Flaherty doesn't hit into a double play to end the game, we could get one last at-bat this season from Sarah Vanderford.
From Sarah Vanderford, and when you talk about postseason awards, Brant, you and I have had the conversation during production meetings. Rookie of the Year, Sarah Vanderford would be a big part of that conversation.
Fly ball, left field, going back at the wall. Whitley makes the catch at the warning track, and now the Monarchs are down to their final out.
Lynch and Valdez have combined to this point, shut down a really good offense that coming out of the weekend in Lubbock had all of the momentum coming into tonight's game. And in my opinion, that even adds more to what they've done tonight to help their team get in a position to win a playoff game.
Kind of wild how offensive this ballpark has gotten this season. We are 1 out away from the 5th straight run rule game here in San Marcos.
I had no visions of this being the way this thing would play out tonight.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen a 7th inning. Tidal Wave scored in all 5 innings in the game. Vanderford takes a ball, 2-1, 2 in the first, 5 in the second, 2 more in the third, 4 in the fourth, and the single run of the 5th. Out hitting the Monarchs 15-3, and along the way they have belted out 4 home runs to include a grand slam.
How many of those 15 hits have been soft contact?
None of them. And now the Monarchs down to their final strike.
Somebody just tuning in and hearing my question, hearing your response, might be sitting at home chuckling, going, he can't mean none of the 15 were soft contact. I can't remember any that would be classified as anything but barrels. And we're not just talking the home runs, right? I mean, everything.
Yeah, sometimes you think about postseason wins and it was a ball that just got by a fielder or one that just hugged the foul line, didn't quite push foul behind third base and has stayed in play. That's not been the story in this game.
Yeah, it has been Bash City. It has been, giggle, giggle, a tidal wave.
Two. A swing and a miss. The throw to first base will end the game, and the Coastal Bend Tidal Wave are heading to the League Championship Series. They'll face the reigning champion Texas Smoke in a best 2 of 3 starting on Wednesday.
Looking forward to it. I think first of all we start with the tip of the cap. Congratulations to the Texas Monarchs on a wonderful 2024 season as an expansion franchise to come in, do the things that they did. Great stuff, but Coastal Bend, Coach Miller and the Tidal Wave, you see the handshake line there. Every Tidal Wave player who showed up at the park tonight contributed to what was an impressive playoff victory.
And our play of the game, Tatum Anzaldo. 3 at-bats, reached base 3 times, had one of the more important hits of the game. A 2-out bases empty single the first inning. 1 batter later, Cannon with a home run. Speaking of homers, it was a grand slam from Anzaldo in the second off the tool shed. Part of a 5-run inning at the time, gave the Tidal Wave a 7-0 lead. They go on to win 14-2 in a run rule victory, now heading to the championship series.
An offense that is going into the championship series against the Smoke, clicking on many cylinders, but we know this. We chronicled it throughout tonight's semifinal. The Smoke, they come in as hot as any team could ever be considered being hot in a championship scenario.
And again, the Smoke just swept Coastal Bend over the weekend, but all that matters not moving forward. Game 1 of the championship series Wednesday night, 7 o'clock right here on the league's official WPF YouTube channel. That is going to wrap up our coverage of the semifinals here tonight. For Bill Colhane, I'm Brant Freeman saying so long from San Marcos, Texas. The final score in a 5-inning run rule, Coastal Bend 14, the Monarchs 2. For more information on the WPF, log on to WProFastPitch.com. This has been a presentation of the WPF. Until next time, good night from Bobcat Softball Stadium.